Welcome everybody to Sunday Mornings with Twitchy Woman. We're excited today to have Debra Magid and her son Zack Grant join us to talk about their film Shake With Me. I first met Debra and Zack and saw their film, I think it was about 3 years ago. They had a screening in LA and I went with a bunch of my Parkinson's friends and we got a chance to talk to Debra. And this is the first chance that I've had to have her on our Sunday morning. So I want to give you a big welcome. And I'm going to actually stop sharing and Zack is going to show the trailer for the film. I hope most of you have seen the film. And anyway, Zack, go ahead and show the trailer and then we will get
that. You hear that? That's my hand. Something's rattling because my hands are shaking.
She took that new medication today.
For the first time, yeah. My son Zachary is behind the camera making this documentary.
When did you first notice that your mom was shaking?
She was scared. We both were. Still am.
You know, I'm right-handed, and right now the Parkinson's is only on my left side, and particularly my left hand. So I do feel lucky that I can control everything on my right hand.
She doesn't want to imagine a time where she would actually need lots of help.
I can't have it be the focus of my thought. This is how I have to do it. It's a part of my life, but it is not the focus of my life. Even if I want to keep drawing faces and bodies and stuff, they may just shake. They may shake with me. Everything I have might have a sense of movement in it. I don't know. I'll just figure out another way to do it. Like, I'm not going to stop.
Okay. Did everybody, how many of you guys had a chance to see the entire film? Oh, good, a lot of you. That's terrific. So I'm going to start by asking a couple of questions, and then I'm going to have everybody put your questions in the chat, your thoughts about the film, any questions you have for Debra or Zack, and then I will moderate. Rather than doing a formal presentation, the film is really the formal presentation. So, okay, Debra, at one point in the film, early on, you say you're drawing as fast as you can. Was this a sense of urgency because you didn't know what lies ahead? Or do you still feel this 10 years, you were diagnosed about 10 years later, right? 10 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Do you still feel that sense of urgency to draw as fast as you can?
Yes. Because thank you everybody for coming today and for inviting Zack and I to come and talk to your group. It's very exciting to share the film. We haven't done it in a while, so this is a nice way to get back into it. I do feel the sense of urgency because even though, you know, I was diagnosed in 2012 and it's been 10 years and I've been extremely lucky that my condition has gone downhill very, very slowly. It's still the sense of that you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow when you wake up. You know, is it going to change? Is something going to stop working? So I just keep going at it. Also with the pandemic, I think it's just part of what keeps me sane.
Do you think the drawing helped you through the pandemic?
I think so. I think it's the place I go to get away from it all. So, you know, and Parkinson's was a good reason to get away from it all in the beginning, but you know, the last couple of years, there's been other reasons too.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, that was one of the reasons we went to Antarctica last month. It was that sense of, we don't know when the other shoe is going to drop.
Right. I think we all feel that way.
You still feel that way. And it was like, we can do it now, let's do it, because I don't know what's going to be in a year or 2 years. And I think everybody feels pretty much the same way. We've been fortunate with tremor dominant, you and I both, which is, according to my doctor, a very slow progressing form of Parkinson's. Mine started on my right. Started on my right side and is still on my right side with the tremor. And I'm right-handed, so I could not continue to do a lot of things I used to do that required fine motor coordination. Yours is on the left side.
Mine is on the left side and I'm right-handed, so I still feel like I'm like very lucky. You know, I can control, I'd say 98% of my right hand at this point. You know, there's a little shaking when I hold a paintbrush, but I can manage.
Yeah, I just was a calligrapher prior to this, and I showed, oh, I should have it out here somewhere. I showed Deborah the other day a piece of calligraphy I had done prior to the Parkinson's, and now I can't do it. I can't hold the pen. It's very hard for me to write smoothly. And even though with a calligraphy pen in my hand, there's kind of this right brain, left brain shift. So it's not as bad as when I'm not doing anything, but it's still hard to control the tremor. So I think you were very fortunate that yours was the opposite side.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'm going to go to some of the questions here. Comments where the film was uplifting. Thank you. Zach, here's a question for Zach. What was the biggest thing that surprised you about your mom or Parkinson's as you made the film?
That's a good question. Well, and I echo what my mom said. Thank you so much for hosting us today. And, you know, it's really nice to share the film again with, you know, such a passionate community. I think, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one specific thing that I would say was surprising, because the whole process of making the film was an education, both in Parkinson's and how my mom was coping with Parkinson's. We started making the film in 2016, which was 4 years after she was diagnosed, which, you know, was a long time, but it was also, we were just starting as a family to be public about her diagnosis. So, you know, it was very much a learning experience every step of the way, of learning how she was feeling, hearing things said for the first time in relation to Parkinson's. And, you know, and then as a, you know, myself and the rest of my family processing all that stuff in real time. You know, looking back, it's almost 4 years since I completed the film. So it definitely feels like another time looking back in terms of our journey through Parkinson's. But in the moment, it was very unique and visceral and kind of all happening at once.
Okay, wonderful. And how does the future look to you having a mother with Parkinson's? Are you worried about yourself developing Parkinson's? I believe your mom said that she does not know if she has a genetic form.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the 23andMe stuff, and, you know, I don't think about that really in terms of myself, because I don't. But in terms of the future and, you know, what that holds for a family, you know, we've been very lucky in terms of the pace of her progression, you know, and the fact that, and I think like on an artistic level, also her embracing her Parkinson's and her, you know, hurt has also been, you know, a really cool, interesting thing to say. So obviously, you know, the future is, for anybody who has a loved one with Parkinson's, is, you know, there's always a little bit of fear there for sure. But I think we've gotten so kind of just, it's part of our lives, it's part of our family. And, you know, at the moment, it's not something that's like more than, you know, just something to deal with and, you know, in a day-to-day life, but it doesn't dominate life in any sense. And so I try not to think about any possibility of that happening, even though it, you know, it may be the reality one day.
Okay, so Deborah, I know you were reluctant to start the medication, and since it's been 4 years since this film was finished, where are you with it? Are you on medication? Does it help?
I'm on medication, and anytime somebody asks me that question of does it help, I say I don't know. You know, I'm taking 2 different Parkinson's drugs now, And if I miss a dose, nothing happens, you know, so I guess I'd have to sort of, to really see if it's working, I'd have to go for a few days with nothing. But, you know, luckily I don't freeze. I don't have that issue. So if I skip a dose, like I really don't notice any difference, but the doctor says that it's helping. But, you know, it's hard, it's really hard to know. But it does feel like I kind of pop pills multiple times a day though, which is not a great feeling.
Okay. Questions, I'm not getting a lot of questions, so I'm gonna, if one person asks if you have any grandchildren, yes.
Zack just got married, he's a newlywed.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
So, okay, Deborah, I have a couple of questions. You have artwork behind you. Do you want to show us what you're doing and talk a little bit about what you did before, the type of work you did before your diagnosis, because you've been an artist your entire life.
I've been an artist my entire life, yes. And I went to art school. I went to RISD in the 1970s, and then I graduated and had to work. So I was a designer, an industrial designer and a graphic designer for many, many, many years. And then when I was diagnosed in 2012, it came around the same time that my youngest child was going to leave for college. So it was a big awakening, and I sort of looked in the mirror and said, you better figure out what makes you happy, because, you know, between Parkinson's and having an empty nest, this is not going to be a good thing. So I sort of said, this is the time. And I jumped back into artwork, and I went back to school. I started taking classes at School of Visual Arts in New York City. And I really just like adored it. I walked into the studio and it had like a certain smell and a certain look and a feel. And I mean, it made me happy to go to the art supply store. You know, it was just like coming home. And it just, you know, and I found teachers that I liked to work with. And, you know, I was able to do more than I thought I could do. And as I say in the film, I think I'm, you know, looking backwards from 50s and 60s, I have a lot more to say, and I have a lot more to think about, and it comes out in my artwork. What I did in my, you know, teens and my 20s just looks so boring, you know, just looks so uninspired. And I'm much happier with what I'm working on now. I can show you some of my paintings if you want. We're in my studio, which is a very tiny but very creative place. There's a lot of stuff around here. Let me just get some things.
That would be great. While you're getting them, whose idea was it to do the film? Was it yours or Zach?
It was my idea. I was also, you know, I went to school for, you know, production and film, but not after I graduated. I had kind of this desire to keep learning and practicing that. And, you know, I was also, you know, taking some continuing education classes around documentary, and, you know, the film was born out of that. But it definitely, you know, I probably undersold to my mom the scope of what this film would become. And I didn't really think I had no idea at the time. I thought it would be a very small kind of minimal thing, or just something that wouldn't end up, you know, we wouldn't be here today 4 years later talking about it. So, you know, it was definitely my idea, but I certainly did not know what this film and this journey would ultimately mean.
And I didn't know what I was agreeing to. Yes.
You plan on doing a follow-up?
I thought it was going to be like a little homework assignment, like a little class project that he was going to do, you know, 3 minutes or 4 minutes. But when he asked me to do this, I said, of course, you know, sure, why not? I'm your mom, I'm going to help you out. But it grew and it grew into something much larger. And I actually wasn't like fully out of the closet about my Parkinson's when he started to make this film, but that took care of that. You know, there was a point when Zack and I were, you know, the film was released and he was taking it around to different festivals, different film festivals. And we were in a festival in New York City, and someone from NBC News came and interviewed us, you know, to go on to the evening news. And I sort of figured, well, NBC Evening News, 100,000 people in the audience, there goes that. So that kind of forced me to tell everybody about my Parkinson's, which was, I hadn't been telling any of the people I worked with about it. And they were pretty shocked when I confronted, when I talked to each of them. But the film's been a wonderful, I said this to Zach at one point, that I think the film is how he went through the process of understanding what it meant to have a parent with Parkinson's. I think this is how he made his peace with it, how he just came to not embrace it, but to just not be afraid of it anymore. So.
Okay. Is Zach doing any more filming of you? Are you going to add on to the?
No.
I guess
I mean, I've been asked that question before, and it's been a few years since I've been asked that question, but I kind of still feel the same way, is that the film was such a specific moment in time for our family where, and that's kind of what I think makes it special, is that it has this, my mom and I are having certain conversations for the first time on camera. And it was less of, I was cognizant that I didn't want to make a film that was about, a degenerative disease and watching that play out. I really didn't have any interest in doing that. I wanted to, as my mom said, really like dive into what this meant for our family and what this meant. In term, at first it was about her art, but it became a lot bigger. But I think it was just such a unique and finite period of time that we were filming in, that would be hard to recreate now that, it's just such a rudimentary part of our life.
Okay, thank you. Deborah, do you want to go show us your artwork? I'm sorry that you got it way late a little bit.
It's okay. I'll hold it up and hopefully it'll work and you can see it. This is a recent painting I just finished. This is from an online model. Like the woman's been online and I paint her. Oh, I see it's shaking. Well, what can you do? So that's one thing I've been playing with a little bit. And this is something I just started, so it's not like this is called the underpainting. It's kind of like on the way to the main painting, but it's just something that's like just partially baked. I still do, mainly portraits and figures, because that's what interests me.
Do you use acrylics or oil?
These are acrylics because I layer them so the acrylic dries quickly. With an oil, it stays wet for days on end, and you can't layer it. You can blend it, but you can't layer it. And I like to layer it because I like to get pieces of color coming through other pieces without mushing them together. But yeah, okay. So the pandemic's been challenging because everything's shut down, like all of the studio spaces in the city shut down. I used to go multiple times a week to different spaces in Manhattan, in the city, and you could get access to models and, work in a studio, but that all stopped with the pandemic. So a lot of it's online now, but it's not the same. It's not the same, you don't see the same shadows and detail online that you see when you're in the room with somebody. It's harder to get to a sense of their personality.
Do you ever get commissioned?
Not yet. Who knows what's possible?
Yeah. So you had your work exhibited, correct?
Yes, I've been in a few group shows. I live north of the city in Westchester, which is a suburb. So I've been in a few shows in the suburbs up here, and even one in the city in a group show downtown in a gallery. But again, all the shows have stopped, or they've just been online shows. So there hasn't been anything in the last year or so. Hopefully that can start up again.
So when you start a painting, you do the underpainting, as you said, and then you layer and layer on it. How long does it take you to do from start to finish?
Depends. I mean, sometimes they're just a one session painting, like where you just have access to the model for 2 hours or 3 hours, and that's like a one day thing. And sometimes it depends, it's a class situation and you get, 2 or 3 days with the same model. So I'd say anywhere from the quickest I can do a painting is maybe 2 hours.
Mhm.
And then, some of them can take 10 hours. It depends on how much time you can fill it. But I find that the way I work, because I work with a lot of energy, which is a response to the shaking of the Parkinson's, that like I'm better when I work faster.
Do you feel better after you've worked on a painting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Painting is the only time I don't really shake a lot. Like it just like I go into another zone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the right brain, left brain thing, shift, I think. And does it last for the rest of the day?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
It always feels good, and it always goes, like if I know I have 2 hours with the model and then like the 2 hours is over, I'm always like, oh, what happened? Like, how did this, I've been sitting here for 2 hours painting you. It just, the time flies when I'm doing that.
And you're still drawing, you said?
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, I'm more interested in the painting at this point, but it is hard to get the access to the models. So sometimes I do drawings because there's easier places to get models online where you can do like just 20-minute sketches of them. That's more readily available.
wow. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat. Deborah wants asked if you exercise a lot.
I do.
What
I
type of what
I
do you do?
exercise a lot. I do twice a week. I do the boxing for Parkinson's program. I take a Pilates class once a week. I take like a stretch and tone exercise class once a week. These are all online. Before the pandemic, I did the Dance for Parkinson's program. I don't know if everybody has that where they lived, but that was a great program. And I think it's going to start up again soon. So I'll do that again. And I walk every day. I mean, I walk every night, like after dinner, I'll walk for, depending on the weather, half an hour to an hour. It's cold in New York now at night. So I don't go out as much as I don't stay out as long as I usually do, but I clock a lot of steps, and all of that makes me feel better. And I actually just finished like a big physical therapy program, the LSVT program. I don't know if any of you know that, but it's about sort of making your movements bigger than the way that we all sort of curl in on ourselves. It's a way to sort of try and reverse that sense of smallness and turning it into bigness. And I just finished that program, and I think it helped a lot, actually.
Yeah, they're going to be doing that for us sometime in the next few months.
I just feel like physically the only thing we can do to fight back really is to do the exercise and the moving. Like everything else is out of our control. So it makes me feel like I'm sort of taking responsibility or stepping up to try and fight back.
Sherry asked if you're using any complementary or alternative treatments.
No, I'm pretty straightforward. I feel like, I see my doctor every 6 months, and it doesn't seem like, I don't feel like I'm very medically managed. I just, like, you kind of just live your life.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more. I've got questions all over the place. I'm going to try and put them in some kind of context here. One question: how has your painting changed from pre to post diagnosis? And does the art help with fine motor skills?
I don't know if it helps with fine motor skills. I mean, I'm still doing it 10 years later, so maybe the answer is yes. And pre and post diagnosis, I think the biggest thing, I mean, many people I've spoken to, it's a pretty traumatic process of telling people that you have Parkinson's. Everybody goes through it in their own way. And for me, the hardest part was to tell my 2 kids, because they were both, 10 years ago, Zack was a 20-year-old college student. Now he's a 30-year-old married man. It's 2 different things. So it was hard to tell him that, my future was going to be different than we had envisioned. And with my daughter, who still lived at home, was in high school, it was really hard to tell her, because I just was afraid that she would never, like, she would just stay home with me because I was sick. You know, the irony of that is in 2 weeks, my daughter's moving to Australia, so she got over that staying home thing.
Yeah, and following that line, Eileen asked, how has your relationship with your husband and children evolved? Obviously, your children have come to accept this. And,
I mean, I think everybody has come to accept it, because, I mean, what else are you going to do? You know, you have to somehow make your peace with it, because you're going to live the rest of your life with it. I mean, I hope there'll be treatments, or that there'll be new drugs or new possibilities for all of us in the rest of our lives, but that may not be the case.
any more questions? I have a couple comments here. Rhonda says it's wonderful you found your passion and that it has impacted your life in such a wonderful positive way, and your work is beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, and along that line, Deborah is donating a print for our anniversary celebration in 3 weeks. So someone is going to be a winner of one of her beautiful pieces of artwork. So if you haven't signed up for our session, our second anniversary celebration, you need to do it so now. Even if you don't come, it will just signing up makes you eligible to win a prize. Let's see, any other questions? Have you read about people who have healed from Parkinson's? I don't know I don't have any other questions here. Any other comments? Anybody else? Comments, questions? You want to raise your hand? Come online. Nobody? All right, hold on.
Lauren?
Yeah, Sharon, I have a comment.
Okay.
I can so relate to this film, because I also have a son who's in the film industry, and I just want Zack to realize the impact that making a film like that has. It not only helping others with Parkinson's, but it has brought awareness, like the work that my son has done helping me has brought awareness to his age group. So, you know, people in their 30s who may not be exposed to the condition at all are now learning about it through him. So, bravo.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think that was, you know, that was definitely a goal with the film, was to, because everybody's Parkinson's journey is unique. There's obviously certain similarities, but everybody's timetables, everybody's symptoms, like the nuances of what that means, I think are very unique. But I don't think there's a lot of awareness around that. I think everybody thinks there's, you know, the symptoms follow a certain playbook. And so definitely part of what I wanted to do with the film was just put it out there that, you know, this is our story and this is our experience, but Parkinson's takes many forms and shapes. And, you know, it's obviously, you know, an orphan disease. So there's just like some baseline not knowing about it, that I, you know, I'm been really, you know, inspired by, you know, how the Parkinson's community has shared the message and around the film. And, you know, anytime I see films that kind of support anything to do with Parkinson's, I always want to spread the word as much as I can.
It was very well done. And just one other quick thing, Deborah, that one of the things you said in the film, it just really got to me when you had your friend say, you know, please sit on my left side. Oh, yeah. I totally did the exact same thing. When, you know, I wasn't out yet, I hadn't told everybody. And I told my best friend, and I said, you know, when we get together with this group, please always sit on my left side, so that, you know, she would be there and other people wouldn't be sitting right next to me and notice it. So it just really hit me that moment. It's like, wow, I'm not the only one.
It's amazing. I think like what we all did in the beginning to hide it, like yeah, like feeling that we had something that we would, you know, that there's a reason we needed to hide it. Like, that's not our problem. That's like everybody else's problem, but like there's nothing to be embarrassed about, or, you know, but it took a while to come to that conclusion.
Yep.
Question for Zack.
Okay, we have a few more questions here from Margaret, have you figured out how you will paint when your right hand shakes?
No, because I don't want to face that.
You'll be doing impressionist painting.
I mean, I have, you know, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've spoken to many other artists who have Parkinson's, and some of them can't work at all really anymore. They really can only do like color abstract, and some of them are you know, more like I am, where they can work in a certain style, and it's a scary thought that, you know, that I'll lose the ability to do what I do, but I think I just have to figure out, I'd have to just figure out some way to do something else, even if it's just working with color, because it's just, it's too important to me, and it's too much a part of how I feel good, and like it's just how I identify. So, I mean, they'll, as Zach said, you know, the art will shake with me.
Yeah. Debra, oh, this is very sweet. I truly feel there is so much hope and happiness adult sons bring to their moms. I only have daughters, so I don't know these things, but my daughters also bring satisfaction. Yeah.
Now, this has been a wonderful process, you know, getting to do anything with your adult son is pretty special, but getting to make a film about yourself and your journey, you know, through the eyes of your adult son, it's like, it doesn't get any better than that. It was such an amazing process.
And we're definitely like, as a family before this, and I mean, even still to this day, like we're not public, like we're not trying to showcase the attention on ourselves. So this whole experience was forced so much of just the way we operated to go into a different, you know, comfort zone. And I think, like, looking back on that, I think that was, you know, ultimately a really good thing. But it was definitely, you know, this has definitely been a extremely unique and you know, life-changing experience that it's hard to envision the path our lives would have taken without this experience of, you know, telling this story and being able to connect with, you know, all these different communities and you know, meet all different people who resonate with our story. You know, that was certainly not the goal when I started this project, but it's been one of the, you know, amazing and unexpected joys of the whole experience.
It's definitely made us closer. There's no doubt about that. I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is a question for Zach. I haven't
Okay.
asked you this. In making the film, what was the thing that surprised you the most?
The way I felt, I think I didn't understand that at all. And so, you know, I think it started as like, oh, I'm going to, you know, the parallels between the art and the Parkinson's, like that was the obvious thing to document. And understanding the way I felt and the way I related to, you know, the things that you were sharing with me, like I didn't really, until we got in there and into the process, I didn't really understand that. And then I had a whole another level of understanding that when I was, you know, when we were editing you know, my editor and I were going through all the footage and, you know, just some really kind of like visceral emotions that I had that I didn't expect to have. And I think it's a silly, looking back, it was silly of me to think that I wasn't going to get so emotionally invested. But when I set out to do the project, there was really, it was way more linear in my mind than what it ultimately took on. But I think there was obviously some subconscious level of wanting to have these conversations and wanting to explore it. So for me, just how much the film made that, you know, transformed into this much larger life experience and emotional understanding experience was definitely the biggest surprise for me.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Anybody? Just feel free to unmute yourself and come online.
Hi, Deborah. I just wanted to let you know how much your film and your story touched me, because I've been an artist my whole life. my work took me, my life veered from that, but I've been doing mixed media collage for the last about 20 years. And that might be a medium you could explore because it's not as intricate as doing your paintings. And there's a lot of joy in playing with the glue and the colors and the papers. And I do use some paint. And I forwarded the film on to several people I know, and all of them came back to me and said, this could be your story, just a different person. So thank you for sharing it. And I also have a right dominant tremor. That's my most defining marker of Parkinson's. And you give me hope, and hopefully it will be very slow progressing, which is what the doctor said, but nobody knows. So thank you again, both Zack and Debra, for sharing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Is anybody else doing artwork and they want to share their experience? Nobody?
Hi, this is Kathy. I'm calling in from Dunedin, Florida, which is north of Clearwater and west of Tampa. And I've been doing 2 research projects with one with the University of South Florida. They have a program where they send you everything. It was $50. And I've never painted in my life because I'm left-handed and my teachers would not show me how to paint. I'm 70, so all of you can relate to the times back when left-handed people were not good people. And so I was not afforded that pleasure. So this was really interesting, and they wanted to see the relationship of working with art and tremors. So I just started with acrylics, and then I went to water paint. And I have to say I'm enjoying it. In fact, I'm doing it now as we're talking because I think it's really helped me to decrease my tremors. They sort of stop when I'm doing the painting. The other research project is with the Museum of Tampa, Art Museum of Tampa. And so the first Tuesday and Thursday of every month, the first Tuesday we go to the museum. They talk about art, which I've never done and never really thought about it. So they really have you exploring your emotions and your feelings. Then on Thursdays, they bring all the equipment to the Jewish Community Center, and we all sit around and they have projects for us. And we did collage like the woman was talking about before. And it's just interesting. I'm ambidextrous also. And how my tremors stop when I'm painting is, and not only me, but the other people who participate as well. And one time I went to do this project and we had to pick up paper to do the collage, and my right hand froze and I couldn't get it to move. And so I asked the instructor, I said, could you please move my hand for me? And she did. She picked up my fingers and I kept going. And then at the end of the hour and a half, she said, Kathy, did you realize that your tremors totally stopped and you were able to pick up the paper and make your collage? And I said, no, I didn't realize that. I didn't think about it because I was so engrossed in my project. So I think that's remarkable what art can do for people with tremors, with Parkinson's. And it'll be interesting to see what happens as we progress in the 2 research programs I'm in.
That's really interesting. Zack and I did a presentation a couple of years ago up at Harvard to a group of artists with Parkinson's that are being studied by the neurology department of the Harvard Medical School. And people were very much talking about how, their art was their way to express themselves, but also that it worked through the Parkinson's, in spite of the Parkinson's, that the art worked. It was really interesting. And, and they're working on studies there to document the connection between Parkinson's and creativity and sort of new artistic abilities that people discover they have when they discover they have Parkinson's. Like the connection between Parkinson's and creativity.
Yeah. What I find interesting is, as a left-handed person, most of you know, they write like this. And I've never written like that. I usually just write straight. But when I paint, my hand changes to this position. And it's really kind of just sort of like, I wonder why my hand is in a different position. So it's just different.
Yeah. Eileen, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I don't feel that I am autistic the way the other speakers have been, but I knit and I tat, and tatting is a form of lace making. And I have noticed that when I am knitting or tatting, I do not experience the tremors. So every night for like an hour or 2 hours, I will be knitting while I'm watching TV or whatever, and I do not experience the tremor. So that is a similar experience, and I don't know
Thank you.
whether it has to do with my mind being occupied or just the activity of consciously using my hands is what's overriding the tremor.
Thank you. So Helena Rodriguez has been in a research study on perception in CD in using art therapy to improve perception for people with Parkinson. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Helena?
Okay, so about 3 years ago, I got involved with this study that was being run through at New York University. They have a research clinic at the hospital there, and it started out doing art therapy twice a week for 10 weeks. And what they were studying was if there was any change in perception as far as our visual perception, to see, like, I noticed through my work that a lot of, I wasn't an artist before this, but through my work, I noticed that in the very beginning, my work was flat. So like, you just see flat. And then as time went on, I could see like shadows and things like that. So it improved the picture. The exciting thing was at the very end of that session, where it was twice a week, we had a gallery show. So there were about 10, I think there was about 15 of us. And then they showed our work in a gallery in Lower Manhattan. So it was exciting to be on in the gallery. Now, after when the pandemic hit, they couldn't do the thing down in the city, which actually worked out better for me because it's a 2-hour door-to-door from my house to there. So it's 2 hours to get down there, 2 hours that I was there, and 2 hours to come home. And that was a little bit difficult. So now they do it in the over the Zoom once a week, and it's been fun. I met a lot of people. What I find is that the artwork makes me go into a different like realm of light, like I'm in a Zen kind of a thing. And I noticed that I'm right-handed, and I use my right hand to draw whatever I'm drawing. I don't have as much shaking when I'm doing the artwork than when I'm not doing it. So I can't read my handwriting, but I could see the artwork. So it's exciting. I guess that's all I can say if anybody has any questions.
I just want to show a piece that I did. This was after, okay, wait a minute. I think I need to turn off my thing behind me. Make it rid of my background. Okay. So as you can see, this was a piece I did probably after I was on medication. I cannot read my handwriting either. But when I put that calligraphy pen in my hand, it makes a difference. So, and I will tell you, when my daughter got married 10 years ago, I was not on Cinemet, and it was absolute torture to address the invitations, even with a calligraphy pen. This was much easier for me to do once I was on medication. and you can see how precise it is. So it really makes a difference. I think doing artwork really does bring you into that Zen zone. I've said that for years. It was always very relaxing for me. People would say, "How can you stand to address invitations to, envelopes?" It was meditative. And do you find that with your artwork, Deborah?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just Karen, I also feel that when you do artwork, you use a different part of your brain. So somehow the neurons travel to where they should go. Because when I do artwork also, I can write legibly. When I'm not doing artwork, it's very, very hard. Although I do all the practices, the big movements, and it's harder. After artwork, I'm able to recognize my handwriting. Otherwise, it's very strange.
Okay, I'm going to wrap things up, and then if anybody wants to stay on afterwards and chat, you are welcome to. I'm going to go back to my screen sharing. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Where we want to go. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Deborah and Zack. This was wonderful, showing us some about your lives with Parkinson's, your journey, and how you've been coping with all of this. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience having you here today. And as I said, Deborah has generously donated a piece of her artwork, a print, correct, for our celebration in 3 weeks. We're not meeting for the next 2 weeks, by the way. And a couple of other announcements coming up. International Women's Day is March 8th, and I'm going to be sending you some information about how you can do this. This is the gesture. They're asking people to send in a picture with a quote, and this is all the information. Whoops. I will send you more information when I send the recap of this out with the recording. As I said, in 3 weeks on March 20th, we are going to be laughing with Twitchy women and celebrate 2 years of Sunday mornings. Carol Klepney and Naomi Solis was the Queen of Cranes. She was the person behind the Crane Project a few years ago. And myself, we are going to be having a lot of fun. You're going to be laughing a lot. And make sure you join us. We're going to be giving away t-shirts and pictures of artwork and classes and all kinds of things that are generously donated by our speakers. And then the week after that, Stacey Macaruso from Prime TV will talk to us about finding the right exercise programs for your needs. This is really a follow-up to Daniel Korkos, who told us why we needed exercise and the rationale behind it. So she's going to talk about how you can find what works for you. Upcoming programs after that, I'm not quite sure what we've got. A few things in April I'm working on. One is the women behind the recent study about women with Parkinson's, the unmet needs of women with Parkinson's. Would you be interested in having someone, an art therapist, come and talk to us? Is that something everybody would be interested in? I'm looking into that. I'm looking into a few other things, and just keep watch for the emails. And please note that we do not meet every other week. It's kind of what my schedule is at the moment. So I know a lot of people last Sunday said, "Are we meeting today?" And but no, not next week. So make sure you mark down the right date on your calendar. You won't be able to get on if it's not the right week. And I just recently switched over this week to a different email program. So I'm trying to get the kinks worked out. So if you get duplicate emails, don't get frustrated. Just let me know. I'm trying to stop the duplicate emails. And hopefully it will all get straightened out in the next week or two. Tuesday mornings, we have open mic Tuesdays with Shelley and Darlene. Anybody who wants to join them, please let Shelley know. She sends an email out Monday evening each week with the Zoom link, and they have a lot of fun. There are no topics that are barred. It's pretty much anything you want to talk about.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again in a few weeks.